Hello everyone, so I've decided to do a tutorial video on how to play Age of Sigmar 4th edition on Tabletop Simulator, covering the mods that you need, how to build an army, and create a list, etc, how to save that army so you don't have to keep making it every single time you want to play, auras, which is part of the mods that we'll be using, which are handy little tools, and I'll show you about those, and give you a brief rundown of how the mods work, etc, etc. So I hope it's useful, and yeah, here we go. Okay, so the first step is to get the right mods that you want from the Steam Workshop. So with Tabletop Simulator installed, you just need to navigate to the workshop, which is here. Click on that, and then here we are. This is the workshop with all of the mods that are supported by Tabletop Simulator, officially or unofficially, of course. And within here you could search for the relevant Age of Sigmar mods that you want, but I've got them favorited, so I will just quickly go to those for you. So here we are. These are the three mods that you're going to need. So first, I'll just do it from top to bottom. So we've got the Spearhead mod, which of course lets you play Age of Sigmar Spearhead. Excellent mod. I will show you about that later on in this video. And the one that you want, because there is a few, because there have been some updates to different ones, but the latest one as of today, the 8th of February 25, you want the one created by Magic 930. It's excellent. It's got loads of scripting, it's a really good mod and very impressive. So if you're after Spearhead, you want that one. Okay, and then in regards to Age of Sigmar 4th edition, vanilla full fat, you want this one, the Age of Sigmar 4th edition table. Of course, this lets you set up your terrain and play the game, and again, there's tons of scripting, tons of loads of cool stuff, which makes the game really easy to play in Tabletop Simulator. It's excellent. And this is the one by Poro. You've got Saturn Boy here as well, but Poro seems to be the main man on these. So yeah, you want the Poro version, Age of Sigmar 4th edition table. And then last but not least, perhaps one of the more important ones, is actually your models. So this mod has all of the 3D scanned models, again by Poro. It's called Uthwan, and it's amazing. And from here, this is where you would build your army list, and then save that list to port into the other mod, ready to actually play Age of Sigmar. But this has all the miniatures in for you to create your armies, etc. So you need this one as well. Okay, so once you've got those three subscribed, by clicking the subscribe button on each of them, they will now appear in Tabletop Simulator for you to load up and start doing AOS 4th edition on TTS. So next step is building your army and how to do that. So we'll cover that next. Okay, so now that we know which mods we need from Tabletop Simulator Steam Workshop, the next step is to actually start using them. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at building an army and getting all the miniatures together and building something. So what you can see here on the screen, I know it's a wide aspect ratio. I've essentially got Tabletop Simulator here. This is the main menu at the moment, and over on the right hand side we have the Age of Sigmar app, which is on Android. This is a separate piece of software called BlueStacks, which lets you emulate an Android phone or tablet on the PC. So I use this to do list building and things like that whilst using the actual app. So for this, I've got both open at the same time so you can see them both. Okay, so in regards to creating a list, the first thing we're going to do is create a single player game, and these are all the various games that are available, some of the things that they offer to buy, as well as all the various different ones that we've got from the workshop. So if I click on the workshop, and then I've put the Age of Sigmar stuff into here. In fact, I can put that into there now. So there we go. So I've just moved that mod into there, which was missing. And this one is actually one of the out-of-date ones, so I'm going to delete that while we're here. Okay, so we were going to look at Uthwan first. This is the mod which lets you build your armies. So off we go. So click on that and click load. And this is what it looks like. Now, if you fire this up for the first time, there will be loading. It will come up at the top telling you the percentage of how much is loaded, so it'll take a little bit of time to download everything that it needs to download. And when you bring through the miniatures from the different factions, it will also load those. Now, I've loaded a couple of these ahead of time, so they should just more or less appear, but it might not be as quick initially for you if you're looking at this for the first time. Now, I'm a Cities of Sigmar player for the most part, so today we're just going to build a quick 1,000-point Cities of Sigmar army just to show you the ropes essentially. So if we look at what we've got here, you navigate around using the keyboard on WASD, zoom in, zoom out with the mouse, etc. Obviously you can teach yourself how to control Tabletop Simulator, but in regards to the actual mod itself, you've got all of the different factions here. You can see them all, of course, and they're all arrayed around this table here. There's lots and lots and lots of them, all the different factions, and all we need to do to bring through the entire model range 3D scanned is to click load models. So for me, that's Cities of Sigmar there, so I'm going to click load models, and as you'll see, they'll all magically appear here. And we've got them split by heroes, infantry, cavalry, monsters, and war machines. And you can see that the quality of the miniatures is very good. Obviously, that's the Cavalier Marshal there. I'm very familiar with Cities of Sigmar miniatures. I don't know if you are or not. There's the good old Steam Tank and Talia Vedra, and I think we can all attest to the quality of these 3D scans. They're really very good. So now that we've got our library of miniatures available to us, let's build an army. So I'll just quickly on the app go to the Stormforge and just pick an army that I've done before. What's this? The Griffin card. Okay, it's only got a few miniatures in that one. That one's got loads of cannons. Here we go, and this one might be a good one to have a few different things. So, armoured escorts, this is obviously an army that I've chosen. So, let's go back to Tabletop Simulator. So we know this is a 1,000 points army, which I've already built legally in the app. So let's get it. So what I would say is that you can pick up these miniatures by holding them and moving them around. But what I would say is use this as your library, as your database, if you like, of all the different miniatures, and don't actually drag them over because you might need multiple of them. So what I'd say is there's two ways you can do this. So we'll start with the Fusel Major, because that's what we've got over here. Here's the Fusel Major miniature. Excellent. So I want one of those, so we can hover over it and do Control and C, which will copy it, and then just over here do Control and V on the keyboard, and there we go, paste it over there. So that's one way to create a new version of the miniature. The other way is to right click on it and click copy, and then right click where you want it and click paste, so you can do it via the context menu there. And the last way, and this is when you're wanting to do lots and lots of versions of a miniature, is to right click on it and click on clone, and then you've got a ghost version of it, and every time you left click, one will spawn. So let's say I can do loads of them, and that's really good if you're doing lots of infantry and things like that. So there's three ways to create copies of the miniature. So like I say, use this as your database and then create your actual army over here is what I would recommend. So I only need one Fusel Major, on the Ogre Warhulk, so we'll get rid of all them. So what I did there was drag select, so it's highlighted, and then I just press delete on the keyboard, the del key. The other way is to right click on it and then left click on delete, and that gets rid of it. So we've got our Fusel Major for the General's Regiment. Then we need some Cavaliers, and we'll just find those over here. Of course in the cavalry section. Here they are, here's the Cavaliers. So what I'm going to do is, oh, bumps daisy, move that, I'll just lock that so I can't do that again. If I highlight all of them, I can Control C, copy them, then come over here and then paste them where my little mouse pointer is. And there we go, we have, you can see I haven't deleted them in case I need some more later. And there we go, we've got our Free Guild Cavaliers behind their general. Okay, so next on the app here, whoopsie-daisy, we've got 2 units of Free Guild Steel Helms. Okay, so let's quickly go and grab those. So one of the reasons I picked cities as well was to show you a little quirk of the app. So of course these are 3D scan miniatures, but what I have noticed is for the infantry, where there's blocks of 10 or 20, they've essentially copy and pasted the same model over and over again most of the time, so that variation might not be there that you'd have on the real tabletop. And a good example of this here is the steel helms. So let's just copy it so I can let's lock that. These things should probably be locked down, shouldn't they? And to lock something so you can't touch it again is if you highlight over it. You see that's highlighted, I can move that around. If you highlight it by just hovering over it, you can press L and lock it, which means I now can't do anything, but you can just unlock it again by doing the same thing. Let's see. So that's good if there's stuff that you don't want to accidentally move around. So I've just locked that now, so I won't pick that up. So let's get these steel helms. I'll copy those and paste them over here. There we go. Now, as I say, this is a quirk of the mod. These miniatures are actually the champion. So we've actually got, you know, however many there is there, 9 versions of the champion. So that's actually the champion miniature that you would get on the tabletop. So they're all the same, but it works for the purposes of the game. And you can see when you hover over it, it says Free Guild Steel Helm. And that's that. So yeah. So let's get this. We need 2 units of steel helms. So I'll just go and grab. Well, in fact, I've already copied them, so I can just paste them again. There we go. So we've got 2 units of steel helms. Excellent. And there is some other things we're going to do with this, but we'll come to that in a minute. For now, we're just gathering our forces. And we will tidy this up as well, which I'll show you how to do that. So we can get them back in nice rank and file, dead easy, without having to, you know, maneuver them like that. So okay, we've got our 2 units of steel helms. So that's the first regiment done. Let's go back to our app here. Then we need an Alchemite Warforger, which is a wizard in Cities of Sigmar, and also a steam tank commander. Okay, so let's go and do that. So let's go and find our Alchemite Warforger. So he'll be in the hero section. See if we can find him. There he is. So I'm going to hover over him. I'm not going to click him in or anything. I'm just going to copy by doing Control and C, and then we'll paste him over here. Lovely. And then also a steam tank commander, and there he is. What a lovely model that is. And once again, these 3D scans are absolutely fantastic. Okay, so there we go. That's our 1,000-point army, all done and dusted. So that was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? Okay. Excuse me, sorry. So now, what I recommend you do is you need to do a little bit of quality control. Now, of course, this mod is excellent. There's absolutely no criticism of it. But I've noticed in places there are some little wrinkles, and you might want to just double check that when you're hovering over things that it actually says the right name, and if it doesn't, then of course you can tweak these things to what it needs to be. They do update the mod semi-often, so I assume these little quirks will be ironed out, but of course you can completely do this yourself. And what we'll be doing is, once we've made those improvements and changes and tweaks, we will actually be saving this army, so those will carry over and you don't have to keep doing them over and over again whenever you need want to play a new game with this army. Okay, so in regards to quality control, so our Cavaliers here, we have the Cavaliers, and that is all correct. We've got 3 normal Cavaliers there, we've got the Champion, which is there, and the Banner Bearer there. And when you hover over it for a period, you'll see a little tooltip appears, giving you their movement, their health, their control, their armor save, the weapons they've got, and any keywords. So these little tooltips don't give you their abilities. I think that'll be a bit too much. So you will obviously still need to refer to your app or whatever on the wall scrolls to look at those, but at least you get these. And what I would recommend is maybe just double checking they're absolutely correct. I'm not going to do this now, of course, but that's what I would say. And we do have an example where there is a mistake in the steel helms. So I will cover that now. So you can see in a steel helm unit, if I just go back to the app here, oops-a-daisy, go to the wall scroll. So in a steel helm unit, we get 1 musician, and we get 1 standard bearer, but they have a special rule where the musician and the standard bearer are actually the same miniature. And here in the app, we've got a standard bearer, and then we've allegedly got this guy as a musician, and that is just not correct. And also the champion, you'll see there, he's the champion, he looks identical to the rest of these guys, and that obviously would be a little bit difficult to pick out on the table, you know, the actual champion. Excuse me. So there's a few things we can do here. We need to just do a little bit of quality control. So this musician, I'm just going to pop him to one side. So our actual banner bearer, he's our musician and banner bearer in one. I mean, if you actually look at the miniature, you've got a clue there, he's holding a trumpet. So he's actually a 2-in-1 model, which is special for the steel helms. So what we can do is we can tweak this accordingly. So if we right click on him, we've got the tooltip here, and if we left click on that, we can now tweak this. Now all this code in brackets and stuff is just telling it the fonts and colors to use. You can ignore all that and instead just change the bits you want to change. So he is a banner, so he has +1 to control score, and he's also a musician. Yeah, thought I'd mistyped there. Excuse me. He's a musician, which, if I recall, gives +1 dice to rally. So there we go. So now if we click away from that, when we hover over him, you can see that that's now added there. We've got the +1 dice to rally, and also I want to change his name, so I'm going to right click him again, and you see his name is there. So he is a Steel Helm banner and musician. And now there we go. So now I've got the banner and musician in one. We've made that change. It's now correct to the rules, and fantastic. Now this guy here, he obviously is surplus to requirements, you could argue, because he's not a musician at all. In real terms, he's actually a battle priest, which they've used in this unit. It doesn't actually have any rules in the current 4th edition for Cities of Sigmar. But what we could do is, because we have everything here all the same, we could make this guy our champion. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So because he'll stand out a little bit better. So I'm going to change him to Steel Helm champion. I'm going to change his special rule from musician to champion. I'm going to say +1 attacks in melee. I think, no, it's just +1 attacks, isn't it? Anyway, regardless of the rules, you see what I'm getting at there. So he's now our Steel Helm champion. He's got the champion +1 attacks, and that's that. And I'm just literally using him because he looks different to the others. And you'll see we have a Steel Helm champion miniature. Sorry, it was this one, wasn't it? And he looks the same as the others. And what I'm going to do is, instead of tweaking him or changing him, I'm just going to delete him, copy a normal one, and paste it in. And there we go. So now our unit has been corrected, and as I say, this is just a bit of quality control you might want to do when you're reviewing your army, just to make sure everything's legit. Another thing you could potentially do, if you really wanted to, is you could get rid of this tooltip entirely, you know, in case, so you're not having to make sure it's right all the time. You could just completely and utterly delete it, and then obviously just use your war scrolls in your rule books or in the app or whatever, and maybe just keep the name so you know what the name is, and that's obviously another way to do it. Okay, so we have built our army. Lovely, well done. And the last thing I just want to show you is how you tidy them up, and this is also relevant when you're actually playing the game, of course. So we've got all these guys, they're all mixed up everywhere, aren't they? And we want them in a nice rank. So what we do is we're going to select all of them, and now we've selected all of them, you can pick them all up together, but you see that they stay in this formation, which might actually be a good thing normally. But what you can do in Tabletop Simulator is if you wiggle your mouse, they all go together like this. Now they're just a big ball of miniatures, which, you know, isn't good. But while still holding down the mouse button, which is what I'm doing right now, which is why I'm able to still drag them around, if I use the number keys on the keyboard, I can actually get them to rank up how we want. So if I press 1, they now go in a straight line. If I press 2, they go in 2 ranks. If they press 3, they go in 3 ranks. And I don't think 4 ranks as well is available. And I think that's it. I think if you press 9, they go like that. And yeah, so it's slightly like a different orientation. But that's it, and that's really handy. So most of the time I want my steel helms in 2 ranks. And there we go. And now we can move them around like that again. So we'll tidy these guys up as well. So just to pick them up so they're in the air, give the mouse a shake. Oh my gosh, what the heck's happened? Press 2 because I want them in 2 ranks, and look at that, jobs are good. And in regards to spinning them around, you can do that with the E and Q keys. So look, I'll just get them to turn around so they're looking at us correctly. Then amazing. And I guess the last thing I'd do just for belt and braces is this is now my corrected unit with the Steel Helm Champion there, and we've got the Banner and Musician. So this unit's kind of out of date now, so let's get rid of those and instead copy them and paste those, and now we've got both of our Steel Helm units 100% correct and legit. Okay, so that is our army. Wonderful. So the next thing to do is to save the army so that we can bring it into the other app and actually play Age of Sigmar dead easy. So that's what we'll do next. Okay, so we've built our army. Here it is, just as we've already seen. And now what we want to do is we want to save this army so that we can easily get it back when we want to actually play Age of Sigmar. And of course you can build lots of different armies and save them all separately, etc, etc. So to do that, what we do is we select all the miniatures that we are having in our army. And if we right click on one of them, it doesn't matter, I'm going to click on the, in fact I'll click on the Alchemite Warforger, that's just to make a point a little bit later. So if I right click on one of the miniatures, I'm going for the Warforger here, one of the options here is Save Object. So if I click that, what we get here is this save dialog box. Now sadly, this doesn't expand or change or anything, so if you had really long names and things, they'll drop off. And it also saves into just a folder which is within the tabletop. In fact, it's not, it's actually in My Documents, which is the folder usually on your desktop in Windows. It's a random folder in there, and there's absolutely no folder structure at all, so everything will just be all thrown in there, and it's not what we really want. So before I save these objects, I'm going to just show you a top tip, which is how to better organize your armies, and so we actually have some options of folders here. So I'm going to cancel that for now, and we'll do the saving in a minute, and I'll show you all about that in a second. So first, what I need you to do is on your desktop is you're going to need to navigate to the saved objects folder. Now, as I say, that is in your documents, which is also in my documents. So the full register is C users, then that will be unique to you, that's your name there. Then you've got documents, my games, tabletop simulator, saves and saved objects. Those are that's where you need to go, sorry, and this is where, when we save something in tabletop simulator, a saved object, it will appear in this folder. Now the reason I'm telling you to come here is because you can actually create some folders and a bit of tidying up, make things a bit tidier. So what we can do is if I create a new folder in here and I call it AOS Cities of Sigmar, and then what I'm going to do is, in fact, and then just to make a point, I'll create another folder called AOS Stormcast Eternals. So we've now got two folders in there. So if I now minimize this and go back to Tabletop Simulator, I'm now going to try and save these again. So I'm going to click, I'm going to drag select the army, and then right click on one of the miniatures. I'm just picking the Warforger, and then click on Save Object. Our little Save Object dialog box appears, but now in our root folders we have these two new folders. So instead of all of your armies and everything being all chucked in one big space, and it maybe becomes a bit of a jumble if you use this app all the time, use this mod all the time, you can actually put your armies into, folders. So of course we're going to save this army into the Cities of Sigmar folder I've just created, and this is going to be the name of your army. Now it defaults to the miniature that you right clicked on and then clicked on Save Objects, which is why I chose the Alchemite Warforger, just to make the point, but we can change that. So instead I'm going to call this, I'm going to say 1000, so I know how many points it is. This is obviously just how I do things, you can do it however the heck you want. And I'm going to put cities just as a reminder, I know it's in that folder, and then I'm going to call it Armored Escort, because that's what the name of the army is in the app. If you recall, if I just go back over here, here it is, Armored Escort. So I now know exactly what army that is. Click Save, and that's it. We have now saved the army, and what you'll see, and I'll just do it now to demonstrate, but we'll see it when we go to the actual tabletop, the battlefield mod, so we can actually play Age of Sigmar. We can load that army in dead quickly now. So if we just go up here at the top, you've got objects, click on that, saved objects, and look, we've got our folders. So if I had any Stormcast, maybe I could put armies in there, blah blah blah, etc etc. But we're going to click on Age of Sigmar, Cities of Sigmar, and there it is, there's our army. And watch this, when I click on it, there's the entire army. And I can spawn as many of these as I want. I can have 1 million of this army if I want. But because that is in your saved objects, saved objects are universal across all of Tabletop Simulator. I could drop this army in the middle of a game of Monopoly if I wanted to. When we load up the other mod, which is the battlefield and actually the playing surface, I can now really easily just find my army and pop it down on the table, and off we go. And of course, if I pick one of these armies that we've spawned here, you'll see that it's got the banner and musician, which was the changes that we made, so we now don't have to keep making that change over and over again in the future. Okay, so that's how you can save your army, and in this case spawn 1,000 more of them should you wish to. But as I say, I can't recommend this enough. Going to this folder here, the users, your username, documents, my games, tabletop simulator, saves and saved objects, and creating a bit of a structure so you can pop all your armies and you know what the heck is going on. So yeah, so there we go, that's it. So next we will look at auras and states, which is unique to these mods. So we'll do that next. Okay, so now that we've built our army, saved our army, we've got all our mods and all the rest of it, now we're going to look at auras and states. Now this is optional, I would say, but I found it very useful when you're on the actual tabletop, and it can be used for a lot of things. Obviously you will have to use your own imagination on how you want to use this tool. However, I think its most natural use is for displaying the range of ranged weapons on the tabletop, so you can easily see if a miniature, a miniature's cannon or bow and arrow or whatever is in range of what it's shooting at, and that's really good in my opinion. Again, this is completely optional, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. So I'm going to use the Steam Tank Commander for this example because it has 3 ranged weapons, and because I'm going to be essentially displaying the ranged weapon range using auras, this is ideal because it's got 3 weapons on it, and I can obviously show you how you switch between them as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our Steam Tank Commander, I'm going to come down to the bottom of the app, and we'll see here we have this section called the Malator's Aura Indicator. It's very exciting. So what we do is you pop a miniature on here, you fill some stuff out here, and then a magical aura will appear. Now what we're going to do is we're also going to use states, which is something within Tabletop Simulator which lets you switch between different states, what's the word I'm searching for, different versions of a miniature, and for example in the Blood Bowl version of Tabletop Simulator, there are states on miniatures which tell you that the miniature has fallen over, for example. So you'll have a standing state, a fallen over state, maybe a knocked out state, things like that. And maybe if it was a different game, you could have a miniature that's I don't know, been stunned, or hopefully you get the idea. But if you don't get the idea, you will by the end of this. So our tank here, because there is the default tank, so to speak, with no auras on it at all, then we've got 3 ranged weapons: the steam cannon, the steam gun, and the commander's rifle. And because we're going to do 3 different ranges on this tank, which will display, and you're just going to have to trust the process here. This might not be making much sense right now, but it will do by the end. And because we've got 3 ranged weapons, I'm going to need 3 more versions of this tank, believe it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone it. 1, 2, 3. So I've now got 4 versions of this tank, and what these are going to be, it's going to have the default, which has got no auras on it, which will just show no weapon ranges once we're finished. Then we're going to have this one, which will be for the steam cannon range, this one for the steam gun range, and this one for the commander's rifle range. And like I say, it will all become apparent in a minute. Don't worry, you're not going to have 4 steam tanks, it's still only going to be 1 when we're finished. So the first thing we need to do is determine the base size of the miniature that they're on. Now thankfully they do provide this little guide, so if you can grab the miniature and hover over, maybe you can figure out which one it is. I think the steam tank is on that one. However, if we really want to be sure, in the app you can go to the reference, pick your faction, say it's a Sigmar for our case, and then if you click on battle profiles here, and we find the miniature in question, so it's a steam tank commander, we get the base size there, look. So we've got the official base size 120 times 92 millimeters, and sure enough it was 120 times 92 millimeters. You can see that the guide works perfectly, and for aligning that, the best thing I can recommend is to look at the shadow of the miniature and make sure it's all nicely aligned, and then jobs are good, and you get an idea of how big it is. So we need to understand the base. Now of course most miniatures are going to be on nice round bases, so it's going to be dead straightforward, but our steam tank example today is on an oval base, and therefore useful to look at the sizes. So we pop the miniature on there. Okay. In fact, sorry, I said this was going to be our default one. It doesn't matter, but that one's not going to get an aura, so I'll grab this one instead. So I'll pop that there. Like I say, trust the process. This will all become apparent. So the base size we've determined is 120 times 92. So we just pop that in there. 120 by 92. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to give it an aura. Now an aura is actually a ring which appears around the miniature when you click on it. And that, in that way, you can then show the range of ranged weapons in this example. But maybe, I don't know, maybe some of your miniatures have a rule that is, if somebody's within so many inches of them, something happens or whatever. So you might want to create some auras just to make life a bit easier. But like I say, I know I'm repeating myself. In this example, we're just using weapon ranges. So for this one, if I hover over, we can see the steam cannon is 18 inches of range. So that's what we're going to do. So we can ignore the thickness. I mean, you can change the thickness and some other bits if you want to, but I'm going to ignore all of this. And all we're going to do is say, I want this to be 18 because it's 18 inches. Because we put the base size in, it's clever enough to draw the 18 inches at the right shape. So our aura will actually be slightly oval shaped to match the base. And we want to call it steam cannon. Correct? That's what it's called. Yeah, steam cannon. Okay, and we can choose the color of it. I'm just going to choose white for this example. And then I'm going to click add areas and the magic will happen. Ta-da! So now this miniature, we can see that, if I put it over here, for example, if it was here, the steam cannon is in range of those steel helms, etc, etc. You can see the advantage of that. And also because it's the right shape, it's the right oval shape, it is a little bit longer range at the back and the front. So if we span it round, you can maybe understand that if you span the miniature around a little bit, you might be able to get a bit more range than you would. So that's what we're talking about. This is what we're doing here. We're adding these big circles on, which are going to be useful for understanding weapon range, which is the main thing I've used it for. Now, you might have noticed one error. Can you see that the actual aura there hasn't actually mapped to the base as we wanted it to? It's kind of mapped it that way, so it thinks the tank is going that way. You can see just by that white line there. We need that white line to match the base, so we're going to correct that. So what we can do is, we bring it back, we can change the orientation, the rotation I should say. So put that to 90 and click add areas. There we go, and those are degrees, the rotation of course. So now that it's 90, if we put this back over here, it's now actually drawing 18 inches from the edge of that base properly, and we're getting our oval correct. So there we go. So it should be longer, slightly longer range at the front than it is on the sides, but there you go. So that's it. So we now have our 18-inch steam cannon range drawn on that one. So let's go and draw the next range on this one. So for this one, we're going to do the steam gun. That's got a 12-inch range. We've already set up the base size. We've already set up the rotation. We just need to choose the range. So the steam gun was 12. So that's 12 inches. I've just popped into there. I'll just zoom in a bit, sorry. And then change that to steam gun. And we could leave it as white, but if you want, we can change just to demonstrate it. I'll do red, so the steam gun can be red. Add area. There we are. So once you've set up those parameters, it's quite easy. But there we go. So we've got a steam gun range and our steam cannon range. And then the last one was the commander's rifle, correct? And that was 18 inches. So I'm going to pop that on there. Again, the base size is already still filled in. The rotation is already filled in. So it's actually matching the base. as we need it to, and that was it 18? I've just gone blank for some reason. Yeah, it was 18. So the commander's rifle is 18. So again, we'll change that to to commander's rifle, and we could make that white again, but let's just, for argument's sake, if I just scroll down a little bit, you can see that menu a bit better. I don't know, let's do yellow for that one, and we'll add that area. So we've got a commander's rifle as well. Okay, so we've now got our 3 weapon ranges overlaid, and we've got our default one, which with no weapon ranges overlaid, and this is where the magic happens and we get our states. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to right click on the default one, the one that has nothing drawn on it whatsoever. Here we go. And then we have create states here. Now when I click this, what will happen is all 4 of those tanks will merge into one tank, and then we'll be able to switch between them, enabling us to draw the various ranges of the weapons. So here we go, create states, and that's it. So now this miniature is the default version, the one which we had nothing drawn on it, and the reason it was the default version was because we right clicked on the default version. So the one you right click on and then left click create states is the one that's going to be the one that starts off. So that's why we chose the one which had nothing drawn on it. So now you'll see when you hover over it, it's got that little blue star and it says 1 of 4, and that's because it's got 4 different states available to it. So now if I press the number 2 key on the keyboard, we're in its second state, which is the steam cannon range. If I press the third one, we get the steam gun range. If I press the fourth one, we get the commander's rifle. And then 1 is back to normal. And you can do that with the keyboard keys, or you can right click in it and choose the states here, if you really want to do it that way as well. And you can see how powerful that can be. If you had lots of ranged units, you'll be able to very quickly see whether you're in range or not, depending on different things. Maybe you, like I say, you want to draw auras around your units if they've got any special skills or anything, things like that. So yeah, that is auras and states. This little tool appears on all of these mods that we're going to say. So even on the battlefield, you can, if you go, oh actually I might want to quickly do something, you can do that dead quick. And that's it. So that's Malator's aura indicator. That's how you use the tool. Make sure you've got the base size right. Make sure you've got it orientated correctly, like I showed you. And then make sure the size is correct based on how many inches you want it to be. Obviously the name, and of course, just to bring our steam tank back over here. Oh, whoops. If I change the state, we've got steam cannon there written and the range. You can turn that off when you add the area. You can just have the circle without the label and the range, if you want to, if you know what it is, you know, if you want it a bit tidier. But of course, it can also be helpful to remind yourself what's what. Okay, so that is auras and states and how you can use them to add a little bit of, I don't know, what would you call it? Quality of life. Make things a bit easier so you can very quickly understand if something is in range of a particular ability or weapon that you've got. Okay, so I hope that made sense. If it didn't make sense, try it yourself, watch the video through, and hopefully all will be well. Thanks a lot. So next one we're going to look at is the actual battlefield itself, the actual AOS 4th edition table mod. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to look at is the actual Age of Sigmar 4th edition mod, where you can play the game on Tabletop Simulator. So we're back at the main menu on Tabletop Simulator, and we're going to click create, just like we did before. Now of course if you're playing against a friend or something, you're going to be, which I would imagine you would be, you're going to set up a multiplayer version of the game so people can join. I'm just going to do a single player one purely just because I'm going to show you how the game works, how the mod works. So again, we get this menu, we're going to pick what we want. So this workshop stuff we're looking at, I've organised my AOS stuff into this folder, and it's the Age of Sigmar 4th edition table, so click on that and that will now load. And as I say, similar to before, you've got this loading at the top. Because I've loaded this mod previously, it's loaded very quickly for me, but the first time you launch this, it might take a little bit of time just as it downloads everything, depending on your internet connection and the computer you're using, etc. So here we go. There's a lot of things to cover, so I'm going to essentially give you a whistle-stop tour of the app, of the mod, sorry. Keep saying app. Okay, well, here is the battlefield itself. This I have measured it in game. This is the biggest recommended table for a 2000 point battle. So I think is that 44 by 60, I think, from memory. If I just draw a line. Yeah, so that's 60 that way. You can see the inches there, and then this will be 44. Oh, whoops, 44 this way. Yeah, so it says 43, but it's because I didn't start it properly at the end there. So yeah, so that's 60 by 44, and that's the size of the table you've got. However, some eagle-eyed of you may have noticed that we've got the blue star, which, if you watched the earlier chapter about states and auras, when we have a blue star, it's lots of different states. So there's actually 45 other battlefields available here. So you can choose them by going to state, and I don't know, I'll randomly choose 24. And there we are. That one's like a deserty one, you know, just for a bit of flavour. I will admit, like I said at the start of this video, I'm not an oracle on Tabletop Simulator and the mods. I don't know everything. I don't think there's any different sizes. I think they're all 44 by 60, but if there are any different sizes, you can potentially find them yourself. But there's just all different flavours of battlefield, you know. But we'll stick with number 1, which is the grassy meadow. Okay, so in regards to what we're seeing here, there's lots to cover. So what I'm going to do is we'll start on the sides and we'll go along. So first to say is we've got lots of little cheat sheets. These are of course the battle tactics, the universal ones here, and then the faction specific ones here. Here's a scoring table if you wanted that for worlds, if you're into the competitive side of things. Then this is going to be the main thing that you use. This is how you roll dice in the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on that, as it says, to clear this mat. So this is your dice mat where you will roll all your dice, and you've got all of these little buttons and things, and I'm sure you're already seeing what you can and can't do. So let's, for argument's sake, say that we are going to need 10 dice because we're going to do 10 attacks, for example. We can click here and add 10d6, or we can click here and add 25 or 5 or 2 or 1, and you can click that multiple times. So of course if I need 3 dice, I can click that button 3 times, but we're going to get 10 dice, so we'll click that. And there we are, we have 10 dice ready to go. And what will happen is if we click roll all dice, it will roll all of these, and you'll see that it will put these into these rows. So whatever the results are, all of your 1s will go there, all of your 2s will go there, 3s, 4s, 5s and 6s, so you can very quickly see how many of each result you've got. So let's do that now. And there we go. So with that roll from 10 dice, we've got 2 6s, 2 5s, 1 4, 2 3s, 1 2 and 2 1s, which, you know, fair enough. Now let's, for argument's sake, say that we needed 4 pluses to hit in this mock 10 dice attack. What we can do is we don't need these ones anymore, so I can just click here and it gets rid of them. So now I've just got my 4 pluses left over, and let's roll them. Okay, and let's say I needed 4 pluses to wound. We've only got 2, got rid of them. And then your opponent, on his side of the board, he can roll 2 dice and see if he gets his armor saves or whatever. But that's how it works, and I think that's really clever. Now if I was to just get rid of all of the dice and bring another 10 in, what you can do is you can do an ordered roll. So that will, instead of putting them in the rows, that will order them. I think it's in groups of 2s, I think. Can't remember. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Look, this is the first wrinkle I've had, and this is where some of my knowledge falls down a little bit of the mod. I was expecting that to be, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s in a nice order. It isn't, so I don't know what's going on there. But if you do it in 2s here, you can see that it does put them in a nice 2, and then 3s as well. And that does, it doesn't seem to order them by number, does it? That's where I'm getting mixed up. So in fact it just puts them in a nice row. So I'm wondering if actually, if we had lots of dice and we did ordered roll, there we go, it just nicely puts them. I see what it's getting at. Right, okay, it's just making sure that they all appear on here. Okay, but there's various ways you can roll the dice essentially. Now if you wanted to, in that example we got 2 wounds, you can click here and you can count that we got 2 wounds. That is pure, it doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't actually do anything automatic, it's just so you can track how many wounds you inflicted. And of course if you've got multiple weapons that you're using perhaps, and you do multiple rolls every single time, you can just go, alright, with our swords we did 2 wounds, then do more rolling. Okay, with our other weapon we did another 2 wounds, so that's 4 total. And then of course we can then work out damage, etc. from there. But that is purely just a tally, and you left click on it to add it up and right click on it to reduce it, and you can even go to minus as well if you wanted to. So there we go. And if we wanted to see what our last roll was, we can click last roll and it'll appear at the bottom here. It'll tell you that we got 3 2s and 2 6s, or we can click on the last 5 rolls as a bit of a history as well if we ever forget anything. So that's the rolling. Well, actually, sorry, before I move on for this, one last thing to say. You can choose the colour of your dice. So at the minute it's blue, but I can change it to red. And then we get some red dice. I can have black ones. I can have green ones. I have white ones. Oh no, sorry, my mistake. Yes, let's get rid of that. So we've got these different colours. I'll explain that in a second. We've got these different colours, and of course now we've got all those different ones. You can roll those, and then maybe they represent different weapons or whatever it is you want to do. So that's quite clever as well. And what this black and white is, sorry, is actually the pips. So when it was on white, we've got white pips, and if I click that to black, we've now got black pips. So it's just, again, preference and what you prefer. So yeah, so that's that. And the last thing to show you, well, no, 2 last things actually. So of course we've been using this tool within its own confines, but these dice are free. You can move them and put them on the table if you wanted to. So if you need to spawn some dice, maybe you want to track something on the table, or I know for example Tzeentch players have fate dice. Maybe you want to have your fate dice at the side of the table here, so you know what your fate dice are. They aren't confined to this area. This is basically how you get dice in the game. So there we go. And get rid of that, and if I want to get rid of them quickly, I can put them there and clear mat, or just like with every single part of Tabletop Simulator, if you hover over it and press delete, that'll get rid of it as well. And you can copy and paste dice, etc, etc. And I think the last thing to show you on dice is if you use the number keys, you can set it to a certain number. So it's on 2 at the minute. If I press 5 while hovering over it, there you go, it's a 5. If I press 1, changes to a 1, 2. So that can be handy for lots of reasons, of course. So there we go. The last thing to show you on this dice tool is that you can add custom dice. So over here, where are they? They're over here. We have all of these dice for factions, so if you want to have a little bit more fun and a little bit more flavour, let's take these blue dice with the hammer, for example. Go back over here. Now if you just pop it there, just on the anywhere on the tray, on the dice tray, and press custom dice, now all of our dice should be those, if I've done that right. Yeah, there we go, look. So now we've got custom dice, should we want them. Yeah, so you can use those, and like I say, those are just over there in a big pile. You can take those, copy and paste them, whatever you want, if you prefer, instead of the just the standard coloured ones. Okay, so that's the dice tool. Now here are various tokens. They are unlimited. That's what that infinity sign over the top of them means. So if you drag one, there'll just be another one there. Look, we can just drag loads of these, and of course you could pop those on the table next to units, just as a reminder that that unit has got +1 to hit at the minute. And because there's unlimited of them, once you've finished with it, you can just drag select them, or select one of them, whatever, and delete them. So you don't need them, because you've got unlimited more. So whatever you want to do. And they've got these ones that they've come up with themselves, but you can create your own ones by using these blank ones. So for example, I could drag that on. Text is there. I could put in, I don't know, +5 attacks if I wanted to, just as a reminder. And whenever you're clicking it, you will always edit that text, unless you right click in it. Oh, hang on, sorry, right click in it, not on the text, and click lock text. And now you can't change that at the moment, but if you want to be able to change it, you can unlock the text, and there you go. Okay, so that's these various tokens. If you hover over, it tells you what it is. It's a wound counter, 2 different kinds of wound counters, and you pop that on, and there you go. That's how much damage somebody's taken. Or you've got these ones. That's how much damage somebody's taken. I know some players prefer to say how much life they've got left, rather than how much damage they've taken. But you know, it's up to you. And I think actually that's what this is saying, isn't it? That's a life counter and that's a wound counter, but you know, there's no board game police. You can do whatever the heck you want, whatever you prefer. So yeah, various different tokens and things you can put on, as well as custom ones as you need them. Then over here you've got your command points, same as the other ones. You left click on it to add command points, right click to remove. So obviously we start with 4 most of the time in Age of Sigmar 4th edition, and then make sure you're just ticking them down as you use them. Faction points, another cheat sheet here is the actual rules. You can flick through, sorry, the battle profiles I should say, you can flick through if you need it. So that's there and available to you. Okay, so that is the side of the table, and you can see there's tons of functionality. It's super cool, and if we come over to the other side of the table for the opposing player, it's exactly the same. So yeah. Okay, now if we go to this side of the table, the top of the table, I don't know, is that what we'd want to call it. We've got the General's Handbook, so that's good. We've then also got deployment zones. So if I click choose different states, so remember we talked about states. These are, we know it's got states on it because it's got the blue star and it says 12 out of 13. We could choose different states and it gives different deployment zones, which obviously is very handy. And you can see which battle plan it is. So border war, shifting objectives, I mean these are all the same. Deployment zone, well, I don't know, better part of Valor, is that the same as well? I'm not sure which one would actually be different, but let's see if I can find someone that's different. No, they all seem to be the same. Actually, I realise this is a bit of a well, there we go, focal points, so that's allegedly, so let's see if that works. Focal points. There we go, we found one that's different and it puts the objectives on for you as well. So yeah, so you can see the territory easily, you can see the deployment zones easily, so amazing. Sorry, they're not the deployment zones, are they? They're the they're just the territories. Deployment's different, you know, depending on how many inches and blah blah blah. So yeah, so as you can see, that's really good functionality. And then you press reset if you just want to. Oh, I thought you did. Oh no, is it this one? Sorry. If you right click on. Nope. No, don't click reset, because that gets rid of the states entirely. See, there you go. That's a little bit of me not being 1,000,000% savvy with Tabletop Simulator. So yeah, so don't press reset, as it gets rid of the states entirely. But you can see the advantage there, that you can actually show the deployment zones and the territories, etc., etc., for whatever battle plan you're playing. Now, of course, not every single battle plan available is in here. It is a mod, you know. So you'll have to decide if you are playing one of the default battle plans from the General's Handbook. Then brilliant. If you're not, if you're doing something custom, or maybe from the new Path to Glory stuff, then maybe you won't have that available to you. But potentially one of these territories could potentially match what you're playing. So anyway, that's available to you. Then over here is our terrain. So what they've done is, because in the General's Handbook it essentially gives you a recommended terrain to set out, that's what this is, and the teal ones are the recommended terrain as it says in the General Handbook, and then there's alternative terrains here as well. Now you can go into the terrain itself. If I was to choose search and drag the bits of the terrain out and put it on the table however you like. However, what you can do is, if I just do border war and I just press place, magically the terrain is on the board for us, and there's different sets depending on what it is you want. So if we want to get rid of that, we need to press recall, puts it all back in there, and let's just choose this one for argument's sake. There's a different layout. We've got some realm gates there and stuff. So yeah. Now, if I hadn't messed up the the deployment zones thing, obviously this would be a nice green board. Unless I can I change the state on here? No, you see, I've broken it by pressing reset. Don't press reset. That's the advice there. But this is how you get terrain on, and it does tell you the different rules. Obscuring, you can see that's got states in it as well. So, and if you press 1, that gets rid of the trees. Just one tree. So just for the sake of being able to see, but it gives you the obscuring rules, obstacle, etc. And when you've got these states on them, it just lets you be able to quickly change them, which I think is nice, a nice touch for visibility. So that's your terrain, and you can see they're all the different battle plans as they appear in the General's Handbook. There's all these different versions. If you pressed place on all of them, they would keep going on and on and on. So you need to make sure you press reset on the one that you've got on to get rid of it, otherwise you're gonna get lots of terrain. Now you can't actually move this terrain, but I imagine, and this is a guess, it's just locked. So if I unlock it, there we go, now we can move it. So this is how you can set up some custom terrain if you just wanted to whack some on from one of the battle plans and then move it around and do whatever the heck you want. Okay, so that's the top part of the board. There's different bags of objectives there as well. And then over here we've got the scoreboard, which you can populate just by clicking on it. So the way this works is, this is the battle tactic that you have decided to try and score, and then you say, yeah, I scored it, so you get 4 points, and then you can also add how many objectives you took. So if you took 1 objective, you get 1 point. If you got 2, if you got more, etc., etc., and you can see that it adds it up. And if you want to manipulate this yourself, you can just use the add and remove buttons there. But that's what these tick boxes are doing. And up here, these basic means the universal battle tactics. If I change this to chaos, we've now got the chaos, 2 chaos battle tactics. If I choose order, we have take the reclaim the realms and slay the tyrants. So that's what that's doing, as well as it giving you all of the universal ones as well. So that's the scoreboard. We also have rulers here, you know, if needed, but we'll cross that bridge in a minute. Here's all the dice and some grid and overlays. So if I put a grid on, there we go. That's a lot of rulers that have just been put around the sides to help you measure stuff if you need to. And we can recall that. And here's another one. If I place that, and again you've got a lot of rulers along the sides again to maybe help you measure stuff, etc. So that's what that does, and I will recall that. Here is the aura indicator, which we already discussed, and this appears here if you want to quickly add some auras to some miniatures potentially. And then this is just a nice little thing. If you rotate this dice, it changes. And how do you rotate? I don't actually know how you rotate, but if you rotate, oh there we go, rotate left, there we go, it changes where the light is, which is kind of cool if you wanted to add that in the middle of the table and put some nice lighting effects on. It also may have some rules application that I'm not aware of, but I'd be surprised if that was the case. And that is essentially a whistle-stop tour of everything you can see on here, and I'm sure you agree it's very powerful, very awesome. Now in regards to moving miniatures around, so what I'm going to do is we're going to, like we talked about before, we're going to go to objects. I'm going to bring my army in that we saved. So here we are. Now I have my 1000 points is the Sigma army ready to go. Click all of it and just drag it onto the table. Like I say, this would be nice if it was nice green grass, but I've broken something. Don't press reset, I'll keep saying that. And here we go. So in regards to movements, what we can do is, thankfully this mod is excellent that it draws the inches for you. So if I pick up this guy, so we know that he can move 8 inches. When you pick him up, you'll see that's how many inches he's moving from the point that you started when dragging around. So I can move him to there, and I know it's 100% 8 inches. I haven't cheated, I haven't done anything I shouldn't have done. And this is the version with the states that I did on the earlier part of the video, so we can have our weapon ranges drawn. So as you can see, that's quite useful for understanding how far everything can shoot and if anything's in range or not. The other thing we can do is measure range between 2 units. So if I just take this Fusel Major, pop him there, if we either switch to this one, the line drawer, and you can do that by pressing F4, or if we hold in the tab key, we get the line drawer. So you can see I can measure. So if I hover over here and hold in tab, I can draw a line there, and it tells me that's 13 inches, 16 inches, etc, etc. But if we start on a miniature and hold in tab and then draw that line, you'll see the line is coming from the edge of the base, it's not coming from the middle. So that gives you, that helps you understand the ranges between, from the edges of bases. We can actually do that between 2 units. So if between the steam tank, if we go there, it's 7.8 inches. Incredible. I mean, how useful is that? Especially for charging and all the rest of it. And we can do the same here. The steam tank, if I hold in tab, it's 12.5 inches to the Warforger, or 19 inches to the cavalry over there. Amazing. Fantastic. And I think that's everything to show you about the actual mod and how it works. You've got your dice, you've got your measurements, easy enough. You can pick models up, you can get rid of the trees if you just want to, so you know that he's in the trees, but he's not, without actual trees being there and obscure and everything. Obviously it makes the models kind of jiggle around because it's trying to crash into a tree there. And so, yeah, and here we go. This is fully fledged, ready to go Age of Sigmar. Beautiful, really good. So I think that's everything I need to show you on here. And yeah, I hope you get some use out of this mod. So next, I'm going to very quickly give you a whistle-stop tour of the Spearhead version. So thanks a lot. Hello, just a little bit of an extra appendix, I suppose, on the back of the of that chapter of going through this mod. In regards to changing back to the grass, as you know, we had the deployment zones, so it was set a state of 1 for border war. That's what we had. For example, to change back to the grass, you don't do reset, which is obviously what broke everything. You change the state to 13, and there we go. It just gets rid of it. So that's what I needed to do instead of pressing reset. Don't press reset, it gets rid of the states and breaks everything. And I would guess, actually, if I did press reset and broke everything and got rid of the states, let's try and undo. So I just did Control and Z then for undo. Kind of makes the camera go back to where it was, and yes, look, we have the states back. So you could have just pressed undo by doing Control and Z on your keyboard, or by pressing the back arrow here. So that's what I could have done earlier in that video to correct that. But yes, 13 is just the battlefield without any deployment zones. So there we go. Thank you. I just thought I'd add that on because obviously that was a little bit disappointing. Thanks guys. So yes, as I say, on to Spearhead. Okay, so welcome to the Spearhead mod, and as you can see, it's very similar to the 4th edition Age of Sigmar mod, but it has some subtle tweaks. So here's our Spearhead board. It has the different states, as you can see by the blue star. So if I press 2, it will change to the Axi version rather than the Life version, or I forget the name. Gyron, is it? I think that's wrong, but yeah, whichever one that is. But the two different boards that are available in Spearhead. At the time of making this video, at least on the 8th of Feb 2025. So you got your board there. You also have the twist cards here, which are available. So you could just take one of those off, pop it in the active twist, and press F to flip it over, and there you've got it. And of course you might be thinking, oh, that's difficult to read. If you're holding Alt while hovering over anything, it brings it up big on the board. So I can even do it on this, look, if you really want a big whatever you want. So by holding in the Alt key, you can bring it up right in your face, rather than having to move the camera and zoom in, etc, etc. So yeah, so there's your twists, and of course you can just bring that, put it there, flip it over with F, and when it comes to decks of cards in Tabletop Simulator, if you hold in the mouse button, you pick up all of the cards in that deck, as you can see. If, however, you just quickly hold, you just get the top one. And that's that. So if I hold all of these, flip them over, put them back on top. Excellent. Now, in regards to shuffling, you can of course shuffle these cards. So you can do that 2 ways. You can right click on it and left click on shuffle, which is there, sorry, it's right at the top. Or as you can see, it says press R, which is much easier. So you can hover over it and press R, and that's shuffled. But you can do it lots of times if you want, if you don't trust it, and shuffle that one as well. And that's how you do that. As we saw in the other mod, you've got the dice table here. Now this one does function slightly differently. You don't have the roll dice button. Everything else is the same, so you actually have to roll them yourself in this version for reasons best known to itself. So you can do that 2 ways, by picking them up, shaking them, and actually roll them. That was a terrible roll. Let's try that again. There we go, that's better. And it will still give you the results as long as they land in this green area here. So we've got 1, 3 and 1, 6, as you can see. Or you can press when you've got dice selected. So let's just do that. If you've got the dice selected, you can just press R, and you can press it as many times as you want, and they'll roll. So they don't fly off the table if you're a bit overzealous. So that's that. But I won't go into this in too much detail because it's exactly the same as the other mod. This is exactly the same as the other mod as well, with all the different counters, etc, etc. The custom dice works exactly the same as I already described in the other mod. The custom dice are over... where are they? Oh, they're here, sorry. Here's the custom dice, so just as we showed you before, I don't know, I'll get these ones this time. Pop that there, press custom dice, and now all the dice should be those ones, as you can see. Yep, so that's all those. So yeah, just don't want to repeat myself and bore you guys to tears more than we have to. We've got cheat sheets as we had before, rules updates, the actual rules and some other bits and bobs available to us. Now the main thing with Spearhead that's different to normal AOS is of course the battle tactic cards, and in real, if you was to play this in real life on a tabletop, you would have these cards hidden so that your opponent couldn't see what battle tactics you have available, and you can still achieve that in Tabletop Simulator, and that is by dealing cards. So by right clicking on it, we can do deal, and you can choose the player that you are, and it's by colour. So you can see at the top here I'm the white player, so if I dealt to the white player, the card would appear at the bottom of the screen like I'm holding it in my hand. There it is. There we go. So these are, and my opponent can't see those. These are just for me, so he doesn't know what I'm holding. And again, if I hold in Alt, I can bring them up big to my face, but I can obviously take these off and put them on the table so you can see them. I can bring them back down and put them back in my hand. So that's how that works. Alternatively, if you don't want to deal it to a specific player, because I'm clicking on this hand here, I can just do draw. That will put it in my hand myself. Deal is usually more useful if it's one deck which everybody's using, like if it was a normal deck of 52 playing cards, you could deal cards to various players, etc, etc. And of course shuffle them just like we did before by pressing R to make sure that we are getting them all shuffled. So that's how you have your battle tactics here, and you can put your battle tactics here to score them, or here to discard them accordingly. So yeah, that's how the cards work, and as if you've played Spearhead, you'll know both players have their own deck of battle tactics cards. So that's the main difference on the sides compared to the vanilla AOS, is that you have the battle tactics and you put them in your hand, etc, etc. Over here we have some, again, useful bits and bobs. So we've got the board edges. That tells you where the board edge areas are, which can sometimes be useful in the rules. There's different states there, 1 to 4 that I just went through. We also have a grid overlay. By pressing place, it just puts a grid on that, which may or may not be useful depending on the game that you're playing and what you need to check. We can press record to get rid of that. We've got deployment zones, just as like we saw before, so pressing 2 will give you the diagonal deployment zones or the straight deployment zones, per the rules. Custom dice, which we've already covered. Regiment ability tokens here, these are just tokens. I don't believe they change or anything like that. They're actually flat dice as far as the game's concerned. But yes, they're just tokens for use in the game. And last but not least, we actually have, oh sorry, not last but not least at all, nearly last, we actually have the armies. So in Spearhead, we're not going to do our saved objects and bring through our army, because maybe you go and make your army in the other mod, your Spearhead army, which you totally can do, of course. There's nothing stopping you doing that, but they are actually all pre-made here. So for Cities of Sigmar, for example, there is one currently in the current rules called the Castellite Formation. and that's the reason why it just says Citizen Sigmar, because it's the only Citizen Sigmar Spearhead available to date. And if I press place, there they are. You get a unit of steel helms, the Cavalier, Marshal, the Cavaliers, and a cannon, and you also get all of the cards as well, the rules which help you out, which again you can press Alt to bring up, along with their regiment abilities and enhancements, etc, etc. So this is the Castellite Company, and we can get rid of that, and potentially maybe we want to bring through the Dark Elf one, the Daughters of Cain. So I haven't looked at this one before, that's why it's taking a minute to load. But there we go, there's the Daughters of Cain Spearhead with all the cards, etc. And you'll notice when you hover over them, you don't get a tooltip. Oh, look at that. See, I was just completely shot down there. So it would seem not every model has a tooltip, because I've noticed some didn't. That's actually the first one I've noticed that did. So, fair enough. So yeah, so that you can bring through the armies and they're all there. I mean, amazing, well done. I mean, how glorious is that? And the reason I was making the points that it just says Citizen Sigmar or Daughters of Cain or Fire Slayers is because for these factions there are only one Spearhead available at the time we'd made this video. If however we look at Stormcast, which does have two, you can actually see the name. So that's the Vigilant Brotherhood Spearhead, and that is Inastra's Spearhead, because there are two different Stormcast Eternal ones available at the current rules. So you do get them all, it's just if it doesn't give you that extra name, you know it's the only one available. Yeah, so the Auric Warclans of the Swamp Sculler Gang and the Iron Jaws Big Mob, etc, etc. So yeah, very cool, very cool. So that's how you bring the armies through. Again, you absolutely can go into the army builder mod and do a saved object and bring it through if you really wanted to do that, but you have the convenience of having them all there ready to go. We also have the aura indicator, just like we saw in the other mods. We've got this object stabilizer. I haven't used this before, but it gives you the instructions there. And I believe it's to stop models falling over if they're on stuff. So there we go. You can adjust the table color if you wanted to. And then here's your terrain features, because there aren't very many terrain features in Spearhead. These are the ones that come in the boxed set, so you can put them where you want them to be. And that's it. So there isn't loads of terrain to add on, etc, etc. And that concludes our little whistle-stop tour of the Spearhead mod, which again I hope you agree is excellent. So yeah, and if I was to just bring through, you can see that the miniatures, although the terrain doesn't have any inches, the miniatures do. When you move the miniatures, it gives you the movement range, etc, etc. So just to show that as well. Okay, excellent. Well, I hope that's been useful. I hope all of this has been useful. And yeah, maybe this will mean we'll be able to play some games on Tabletop Simulator successfully when we are unable to see each other in person. Thanks a lot. Take care. Cheers.